My vitiligo was progressing faster.
Mine always just kind of kept getting worse and worse and worse.
Always teasing me.
Vitiligo hit when they
After he told me about
and I
the
couldn't take it.
diagnosis,
Stayed in the house, food, comfort.
he
just
said
keep her out in the
that
sun.
there are
It's like a
creams
veil.
available.
I had to have that layer.
They may or may not work.
All of this chocolate.
And then he
Milk,
handed me a
chocolate?
brochure
You're saying
and just kind of
mango?
walked
It's a part of who you
I don't know,
are.
I felt like I
You know, the
needed
makeup
to
don't
be
make you. It doesn't make
It
you.
could be worse.
The plan was clear
This was
as
gonna be
day.
it.
Plan
There was no
A,
self-love
B,
there.
see what I'm saying?
There was no
that
self.
there was
This
not going to be
coming from?
anything
I knew that. I knew
that was
that.
out there to help me because I had already tried everything.
I wish I looked like other people.
dying from serious illness.
No way.
About to go outside.
I was so
Wear long
It was
sleeves and
difficult. I
pants.
didn't want to be. I was afraid around people
They tried different creams.
who was going to
It was, to
either
me, it was a break.
stare at me,
Nothing happened.
It was a heavy.
question,
Oh my God.
It was heavy.
On your face.
or not want to be around me.
I'm at ugly face. You know,
No one ever
people
died that there was not going to be anything
And it started getting
else
bigger.
out there to help me because I had already tried everything.
You would hear it. It was never direct.
You playing, God. I know you joking.
The only thing I
They
heard
tried
was
different
I was
creams.
crying.
They tried to seal
I was
away.
thinking, I don't know
This guy is wrong, right?
happening to me.
Really serious.
Oh, and actually the depression started after my diagnosis.
wow.
It's fire.
Really
I
white.
was burning. God!
For some people, it's easier to attack anything or anyone they don't understand. The unfamiliar causes fear, turning angry voices and demeaning words into weapons. Sometimes we must face the fear in order to overcome our insecurities. For those coping with and living with vitiligo, this is nothing new. They show us we are more than how people see us, more than what we present to others, beyond the flaws, differences, and hardships imposed upon us by those who have turned their backs on us. They, all of us, just want to be seen.
I noticed a spot on my knuckle.
I didn't know what to expect because all I knew there was no cure, and it's a spot.
I haven't had pigment on my legs since, I can't remember, decades now. And so like from here down, it's white.
It was this finger, the middle finger. I said, it was little. So I didn't pay no attention to it. And then I noticed it getting bigger.
Towards the end of the 2001, I said, ooh, that's a white dot. I wonder where that came from.
Vitiligo is an autoimmune disease. That means that the immune system crawls into your own tissues and attacks them. Some other autoimmune diseases are type 1 diabetes, where the immune system goes into the pancreas and kills the insulin-making cells, and so you need to use insulin. In vitiligo, the immune system crawls into the skin and finds the pigment-making cells and kills them, and then there's no pigment left, and so then that results in white spots.
This is Millie, this is how I look without my makeup, and this is how I am without my makeup. But again, had to say to myself, Millie, your makeup do not define who you are. And it didn't.
I cried almost every single day.
Always a hard part of my day because I knew that people would be staring.
God's got us.
I had never met anyone who looked like me, and I still didn't understand why I had this, and I was still angry.
Our face is what we present to the world. We're seen, recognized by what others see, afraid of being judged, but it doesn't show who we really are. To be truly known requires a closer look.
It's another day and I'm off to the subway. Always a hard part of my day because I knew that people would be staring at me on the subway, and that was the most difficult part of my day. But every day I looked in the mirror and I was like, you can do this. And I would get on the subway and ride my 23 stops and get on the subway and smile, and sometimes I would even pull my sunglasses down so that they could see how ignorant they looked while they were looking at me.
So,
Here I am, being an only child, really wanting to stand out. I grew up with like three of my cousins. We were close knit. My grandmother was strong. Um, and my mother, she's a strong woman, but I don't know, I felt like I needed to be even stronger. I had to have that layer of protection. And I think that's where the toughness came. And it's just a surface toughness. It wasn't really who I am inside because I had my moments of meltdowns. And then when the vitiligo came, it was like, okay, God, what's the joke here? Especially when it became very visible. I mean, I was good with the elbow and even the spots on the legs because you can cover. We were in Cancun and we were at the pool. And I always wore long pants, long sleeves. And I would tease them. I'm like, y'all ready to get in the pool? And there's like too many people in the pool. I said, I got this. I take off my pants, I take off my shirt, and people would look and they would get out the pool. I'm like, come on, guys, we got the pool. So, I mean, there was always I the comedic part that kind of helped the toughness, you know, that was my being strong. Like, let me make a joke of it. I had the opportunity to go to a dermatologist conference in Florida, and we were able to present something. And I had a mask, which happened to be a cheetah mask because it had spots. And so my topic was, can you see me? Can you see me as a patient? Can you really see me? That's important to people with vitiligo, that you see us, not our spots, but can you see us? And so that was the premise for me because I felt that we were not being seen.
Michael Jackson had vitiligo. So he had an autopsy where they biopsied his skin and saw that there were no melanocytes in there. And that only happens with vitiligo. And so that's clear. It reportedly started shortly after his Thriller tour, which resulted in about 1 billion fans worldwide. And so imagine having 1 billion fans, and your appearance is a huge part of the performance and your artistry. Dancing, it's all visual, and then also audio because he was an amazing performer and singer. Um, and then all of a sudden, he starts to develop this skin disease that it's very, very difficult to hide. White spots appearing that loves the face and the hands, right? His hands were a big part of his dancing and everything. There's a thought that the white glove began hiding vitiligo on the hands. And so, I am not surprised at all that vitiligo affected him so significantly.
I'm a small town kid, grew up in a town of 1,200 people, so finding a small town to live in was our ultimate goal. We're both small town kids, and settled in New Prague. I always like this bridge too. I love bridges. It's kind of smack dab in the middle of Iowa, so cornfields all around, nice and flat. Farm fields as far as the eyes could see. I did not grow up on a farm though, and everybody just assumes I did because I'm from Iowa. My parents were transplants, so they actually grew up in Northwest Iowa. So we were, the people that didn't have a lot of relatives in town. I lived at home and went to community college and, worked full time. I worked 2 jobs. I went to college and barely had any debt. So that was kind of why I did it. Started retail when I worked there because I thought I better work in at least a clothing store if I'm going to be in fashion. I met him at a baseball game. I worked with his sister in law at the clothing store. He's 4 years younger than I am. And he was really cute.
We met at a baseball game, so she used to work with my sister-in-law, and my brother and sister-in-law used to go to a lot of St. Paul Saints games, so there was always a lot of tailgating beforehand and stuff.
And in hindsight, I found out that they actually invited me to this ball game because they wanted to set me up with somebody else.
So we just kind of hit it off there, and then she called me again after the first night.
You're always thinking like, oh God, what are they going to think of this? So, yeah, because it's everywhere, it really is. So luckily for me, like why I spray tan, because I haven't had pigment on my legs since I can't remember, decades now. I did not look like everyone else. And my vitiligo has always progressed, I would say slowly, but some people can get it and not have anything until a traumatic event and then it just explodes. But mine always just kind of kept getting worse and worse and worse.
I noticed it for the first time, and it was the inner thighs when I was changing her diaper, that she had these white marks on there. And I thought at first it might have been some kind of diaper rash, that it was, I don't know why I thought that, but that was the first thing I thought because it was in her diaper area. So, we put all kinds of creams on it and it just didn't seem to clear up.
They tried different creams and tried to see what happened, and nothing happened. And so I'm not sure what age they took me to the doctor. It was still within that first 6 months, probably. And the doctor said, I think that's vitiligo. And good for the doctor that knew what it was, because there's still doctors that don't know for sure. So, yeah, they knew early on what it was.
We had no idea that it would spread like it did until, like I said, she got to be 4 or 5 and it started spreading to other parts of her body. In the beginning, it was just the diaper area. Pediatrician told us that it was not dangerous disease or nothing that was going to hurt her in any way. There's nothing wrong with this child. She's fine.
I just have the one sister. She's 4 years older. Because of the age difference, we didn't really have the same circle of friends. We were kind of totally just different age group.
I'm always the one I worry about what people think about me and people's opinions, and I still do to this day. I hate it. But and I did. I was always I didn't want to go because I'd be embarrassed because everybody always be asking what's wrong with your sister. And or I had to explain things, or I have to beat up somebody because they called her a name.
It's something we deal with every single day, even if you're not seeing it. And I get it. They want to focus on the person, and we talk with that with anybody. You always just want to focus on the content of the character, and that's great. But in reality, it's there.
I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, 1961, July 7th. And then we moved to New York when I was 12 years old. I have 3 sisters and a brother. I have very loving siblings. I love them to death. We grew up very close, extremely close family. I noticed a spot on my knuckle and under my wrist, but I thought it was eczema. That's all. My eczema's coming back. I'll just go get my creams and be okay. But then the diagnosis came. A few days after that, I spoke with my manager and I told her about my diagnosis. And I was explaining to her that, as this progressed, I'm going to want to work from home because, I said I didn't want to be around people who was going to either stare at me, question, um, or not want to be around me. So she said to me, Katrina, I want to tell you something. She says, my daughter has vitiligo. She says, I understand what you're going through.
When she revealed her skin, it brought another level of compassion and beauty that I didn't see in her before.
I was very, very fearful about how I was going to look. I didn't know how I was going to look, how it was going to affect me physically, my outward appearance, because I always took pride in how I looked, how I dressed, how I carried myself. So I didn't know how it was going to progress. So, the fear set in. I didn't know how people were going to accept me, if they was going to shy away from me. The fear of not being included in events or people not wanting me to be in their pictures.
To see how she has grown from from wearing the makeup to cover her skin to going completely without makeup. And I remember telling her one day, I was like, Katrina, you're glowing. And I was like, what? I was like, you don't have on any makeup? And she was like, no, I don't. I just have on eyeshadow. And the radiance and beauty that came from that was like astounding. I was like, don't ever hide again.
Just watching the different steps, I'm getting a little bit emotional, but just hearing her talk about what she went through just to come out, the makeup and the cost of that and the whole process and her, just growing and feeling comfortable with herself and just, the little steps along the way, not having to cover up. And she's come a long way.
God was always there. I never thought that he had left me. Of course, I questioned God, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why did you allow this? I know God is sovereign, but I asked, why is this happening to me? Why did you choose me? So the answer that I got was, well, why not you?
This is Millie. This is how I look without my makeup, and this is how I am without my makeup. But again, had to say to myself, Millie, your makeup do not define who you are, and it didn't. That's just another accessory, like a scarf or a belt to upgrade your dress to make your dress look nice. So you're just adding blush and all that colors on your face to, enhance your beauty, not to make you beautiful, it's to enhance it. So yeah. I had a good upbringing, being the only girl, four brothers. We, it was 5 kids and my mom, and she raised us, and we never wanted for anything. She worked 2 jobs, and so she supplied she supplied us what we needed. I was the only girl, but I was not spoiled. Me and my younger brother, we shared a room till I was like 11 years old. My mother, she was stern. Raising us, she was stern. She was. We had our, we got discipline, and she was stern. But she also instilled in us, what was right, what was wrong, and she instilled God in us. And I think, like, when we younger, we don't really pay attention to that and stuff. But as I got older and I seen her and how she was a God-fearing woman, and especially when she became a minister, then she became an elder of the church. That was her stronghold right there. It was this finger, the middle finger. I said, it was little. So I ain't never paid no attention to it. And then I noticed it getting bigger. And I said, Mommy, I said, there's a spot on my finger. And I said, it's getting bigger. She said, yes. I said, yeah. She took me to a dermatologist. I don't know when she was like in the health field, whatever. So she probably already known what it was, but she took me. He was the first doctor I went to. I didn't go to anybody around Hartford. She said, he's a dermatologist. She said he specializes in the skin disorder called vitiligo. Vitiligo. We went to New Haven. And that's when he said, yeah, you have vitiligo and it's not a cure. He said it temporarily bring your pigment back and all that stuff. But the only thing I heard was there's not a cure.
Who would have thought, or like the young people would say, who would have thunk it, that a little Caribbean girl, I would bash myself for not being eloquent. I bash myself for not being capable, able. But in God, I can do all things. And to birth this is not me. I'm not that good. I'm not. I'm a Caribbean girl. I don't have a master's degree. I don't have that finesse with language like so many others. But I tell you this for sure. Whatever God tells me to do, but anything that He asks me to do, I promise you, I'm going to give it a try. Because if it fails, it won't be on me. I thank God for laying out the plan before me. And I had 2 sisters now that I know was all in. And I said, if I call a meeting here in Boston, I know you're in New York, I know you're in Connecticut, would you come? Girl, We'll be here in a minute. And so, oh my gosh, that first meeting, they were both here. 18 of us at that first meeting in the breakfast nook at the Ramada in Dorchester. We took over the bowling alley, 18 of us, and we bowled all night. We laughed all night. And I tell you, it felt good. And God said to me that day, this is it. Towards the end of the 2001, I said, oh, that's a white dot. I wonder where that came from. And it wouldn't go.
I don't think I knew she had it growing up. Um, it wasn't until, you know, it really started to spread and whatnot where, started to take more notice of it. Um, and uh, once that started happening, whatever information she shared with me, with us, that's information we got from her.
And I looked at it and I rubbed it. And I said, ooh, that's strange. It was here now. And then I'm saying, no, what could this be? And I said, I'm not going to ask anybody anything. It'll go away. I don't know. I must have done something. And it started getting bigger.
It was just weird, like stares and questions and things like that. Like, me as like a probably preteen at the time or whatever, like already you're so worried about like what people think of you and things like that. So I would say early on, definitely, I felt kind of weird about it, and probably embarrassed early on, just because I was younger. But like I said, as I got older, I was like, no, you're fine how you are. Like, who cares what people think?
I took my kids for a ride. And I said, what do you think of mommy's skin? I said, Mommy, we love your skin. It's beautiful. I said, what? We love you, Mommy. Your skin is beautiful. And you know what? I knew they were coming from a pure place. Nobody was tainting this conversation. It was us four in the car. Me, them, and God.
Frederick Douglass was quoted as saying, "Whatever our gaze may fall on, may it fall with gentleness and respect." But for those living with vitiligo, there is often a very different experience.
My experience with the dermatologist was not a good one. After he told me about the diagnosis, he said that there are creams available. They may or may not work. And then he handed me a brochure and just kind of walked out the door. No opportunity for me to ask any questions or anything.
When she told me about the diagnosis, it just didn't play into the equation at all because I was so captured about who she is that her external um, did compare to her internal.
I knew before that he loved me, but I really knew that he loves me and he cares about me and my well-being. So it felt very good knowing that he cared that much about me to have that conversation, to ask me the question, to get my mind thinking, you know, to get my heart right, to embrace it, to know that it's not the end of the world.
All of this chocolate, milk chocolate, you're saying may go away? I'm not having that. No way. The Ivy soap, all the stuff I was to preserve, no. And so I called upstairs on the top floor. God, This guy's wrong, right? And there was this utter stillness.
I feel that patients who are first diagnosed with vitiligo have many questions, understandably. And I think one of the greatest reasons for that is that there is not sufficient accurate information that is available to people. We live in an era where the internet is the realm of self appointed experts, right? Where the loudest voices are sometimes not the most credible ones.
Makeup was my friend, a dear friend.
She just shut down completely. He wasn't going out the house, and no one could have come to the door and ring the bell because she ain't opening the door. If she don't have on she makeup, she ain't opening that door.
I would come out of the makeup, but then I would go right back in. I would come out, go right back in. So it had to come to a point where I had to stop.
Based on Keith's study, it made melanoma better, so we'd think it would make vitiligo worse. My grandmother had vitiligo, but I have to say that she died when I was 5 years old, and I remember seeing the spots on her hands and not knowing what it was, but it wasn't until much later that I was reminded that she had vitiligo. When I was getting my PhD and doing the research to get that, it was in a diabetes lab. I was studying type 1 diabetes, another autoimmune disease. And so I quickly said, you know what, I don't think I want to study diabetes. I'd love to cure diabetes, but I want to study something that I can get my hands on and in patients and really kind of investigate at a human level. So my advisor at the time, who was a diabetes expert, said, "That's fine. We'll find something for you to look at. There's lots of autoimmunity. There's lots of other tissues you can study." And one day he found me in the hospital after I had finished my research. Late at night, he was walking down the hall because he had just seen a patient of his in the ICU, and he saw me coming the other way, and he said, "John, I want to introduce you to a patient." So I followed him into the intensive care unit to find a 20-year-old woman with new onset type 1 diabetes. And he introduced me to her, and she was doing better. She was getting ready to come out. And he said, "I want you to do a physical exam." So I said, "All right." I listened to her heart, sounded fine. Sat her up to listen to her lungs, and she had a big patch of vitiligo on her back. You see white spots, they may be shaped differently. They may be on different parts of the body. There are some consistent things that most patients have, exactly the same characteristics, and there are some things that are very specific and individual to different people. And some of those patterns are really interesting. And we ask, why does this pattern happen? And we can take that back to the bench and understand that. There are certain appearances of vitiligo that indicate it's really active. So clinically, that's important. If someone comes to see me and I see a certain pattern of vitiligo on their skin, that tells me if I don't do anything, 3 months from now, they're going to have 3 times more vitiligo. Preeti was first, and then maybe. A lot of times that question comes up. A patient might say, "Well, I don't know where my next spot's going to be, right? Where it occurs. Is this a random process?" And for them, knowing where nobody can know where that next spot's going to be. But if you take a whole population of people, individuals with vitiligo, and you look at them all, you see some patterns that are consistent among them. The face, for some reason, unfortunately, vitiligo loves the face.
You figure your church family, they would have more compassion, but no, they don't. Oh my goodness, I didn't know you were sick. Oh, you're turning albino, and oh, I got to talk to your husband because he's got to know how to do things for you. And my mom almost got in a fight with one of her sisters at church because she's like, "Leave my son alone, Lord alone, because he knows how to take care of his wife." But she's turning albino.
Seeing Pat and having her go through what she was going through, it it didn't make me sad or anything like that. I just knew that I was here for her, that I needed to take care of her. Whatever she needed, I was there for her. And and I remember walking down the street, and people would look at her, and sometimes I would get mad. In the sense, I would tell them, take a picture, it'll last longer.
Well, now I'm exposing myself to another element of my life that would draw people to either ask me questions or keep me further apart. And I thought maybe I wasn't like spiritually like high leveled for them, so they didn't want me involved in things. And I was like, God does what he does in his own timing. So I was like, whatever. But that first Sunday, oh my goodness. Oh, Sister Pat. Ah, what? And I was like, I'm fine. Yeah, but what? It's vitiligo. It's not contagious. Oh, so what are you gonna do? What I've been doing? Uh, Walking, breathing, eating, sleeping, praying. I'm good. Oh, so because I didn't, I gotta hide because they'll see.
She's a very strong person. That's one thing I admire her of her is that she's a strong person, and even though she will act that nothing phases her, but I know sometimes when she gets into that quiet place, I could tell that, and I witnessed a couple of times that, what's the matter? Don't worry, it will pass.
Fact that vitiligo affects the skin, not exclusively, but primarily, certainly lends itself to a broad range of opinions on how to treat it. I think that doctors should incorporate as much information as they could in making their decision and really look at the breadth of tools that they have at their disposal when they're sitting down and making a personalized treatment plan for the patient, which is not even just the doctor saying, this is what you need to do. It's hearing what you're saying. These are options that are available that kind of suit what you're saying. And then you have to give back to me, okay, of these options and the pros and cons that I'm presenting to you, what do you want to try first? What do you think fits you the best? I became involved in vitiligo in 2004. I love my career as a dermatologist, but there's a difference between treating someone's acne, so that they look good for their prom pictures, right? And then seeing someone go from I hate my skin, I don't want to have children because my kids might look like this, to them being an outspoken advocate for vitiligo and them being a better person for having gone through the difficulties they had with vitiligo. That is undeniably rewarding, and my life wouldn't be the same if I couldn't be a part of that.
Going through a divorce and this happened, it was just like she said, the stress makes it worse. So I'm stressing and I believe it has a mind of its own. That's what we say because we can go to sleep and wake up and I'm like, oh, there was something else. I've been to the beach where beach goers love beach bums to the ultimate. So this right here is really catching me off guard when I put sunscreen on because I was that one that put a little tan on first and then put sunscreen on top of it because I was like, I'm getting brown, I'm doing this summer thing. So thought it was sand, that sand that just won't come off, and I kept rubbing at it.
It's very degrading, and your confidence level just kind of goes all the way down here where it should be up here because we should all embrace it. You can't run from it, you can't hide it, it's not going to go away. My parents tried to get rid of it for years. I'm talking about oil and turmeric. Turmeric is orange. All over me. Someone put on the Facebook the other day, when you're alone by yourself, do you like you? And I was like, well, before vitiligo, I felt great. And then I was like, well, what changed? And I think it's that every day I look, it's something different. It's something new. And I'm like, it's on my back. Wow, it's coming on my legs. I guess it's like you were saying, every day you have to start over.
There certainly has been a lot of discussion over time of vitiligo as whether it's a cosmetic condition or whether it's a disease. It's been an evolving discussion. A cosmetic condition, is something like wrinkles, something like sunspots, something where this in a normal individual, this is not going to cause problems. It's not going to cause psychological distress. The average mentally sound individual is not going to go into depression just because of they're having wrinkles. And it's also wrinkles, sunspots are a normal part of life. Vitiligo is a disease. There's a problem that's going on within the body that's causing these changes within the skin. And it causes individuals to have an appearance that is significantly different from what is expected.
See, I think we had around 280. Yep. Detroit was under 200.
There was nothing, absolutely nothing. And until I met these two ladies, you know, I mean, I spoke with you first,
Yep.
then I spoke with you, and then we met together, and
Yep.
that was really great.
Yep.
And then after that, it was
Lifetime friends.
Yep. Absolutely. It's family. It's instant family.
And I think being in the group and seeing these strong women living there.
And men.
And men. I mean,
another man too.
I mean, for years I was wearing the cover up, everything, and I mean, instantly came up here, no longer buying makeup. Save that $100 a month.
Right. Right.
That $100. I mean, I wear shorts. I'm like blonde legs and all.
There was a beautician that came into the store one time that I was working at and came up. And again, welcome to the Vitiligo, welcome to the community. Yeah. And she's like, oh, really? You're the first person I've ever met that had it.
Yep.
And then she said, it's really hard, me as a beautician, because they walk in and they say, I'll take anybody but her. And she was pretty much close to being in tears as well, going, made me feel good that I'm not the only one out here.
Wow.
That was the whole kind of reason of saying, hey, we need a support group.
Absolutely.
Be together and realize that you're not the only one.
Yep.
Okay, do we have any patients coming up with vitiligo for this week?
Yes, we have.
Vitiligo affects all races, all ethnicities, and it's important that when we study a medication for repigmentation, we represent all different skin types. It's been unfortunate that in some of our studies that we have a lower percentage of darker skin types in the trials. And that's something that we need to work on as a community to make sure that we have that trusting relationship between patients and providers and investigators so that we can get that information that's accurate and representative. So sometimes patients, especially if they're of darker skin types and they are depigmenting, they don't feel as if they fit into their community and their culture, and that really can have a major psychological impact on them. And so it's important to recognize that aspect and make sure that it's addressed.
And this is a nice view here. And, I come here to think sometimes, just think about things, what's going on in my life. As I got older, I keep saying as I got older, some people, they learn early on. But with me, like I said, I was mad at vitiligo. I was mad at God for giving me this.
I was protective over my mother. When you're young kids, somebody talk about your mom. Don't talk about my mom. You get into fights and things like that. And as you get older and realizing, you're her only child, and one day you're gonna have to take care of her.
My late teens and early 20s, that was really hard. That was really hard. There was no self-love there at all. There was no self-love there at all.
For times when people would ask me, like, "Oh, how your mom is very light skinned. What are you?" or things like that. But they wouldn't bother me. I just found, a lot of people weren't rude about it. They were just curious. I would just, try to give them the best answer I could, at a certain age. But as I got older, I did research. She told me about vitiligo, and, I'll answer that as best as I could.
I wish I had a different mindset back then. But because I didn't know what was going on with my body, I know it was going to change, and I know it was nothing they could do about it.
I don't think I ever was down and out. There's definitely bouts of it. I think we all go through that. But I don't think I ever was in the hole where I couldn't get myself out. When I developed Graves' disease with my son, or after my son was born, so it's another autoimmune disease, and it's the opposite of hypothyroid is hyper. So my thyroid was just that's why it's not just skin, it's more than our skin, because it's an autoimmune disease, and autoimmune can really screw up your system. And so, and I think that's why vitiligo isn't as, for me, a big a deal anymore, because of I'm dealing with the Graves' disease, which is a lot harder on my body and a lot harder on how I feel and, how I look and everything. I've met incredible people because of my vitiligo that I never would have met. in my life, ever. I never would have went to Detroit. I never went to DC like that. You know, I never would have met these people and connected. You know, it's crazy because I have a second family that I'll always have, and it's precious.
Isolation, shame, depression, suicidal ideation. These are but a few of the very real emotions that can plague someone with vitiligo. Society often repels or shuns what is not understood. A still and empty space. That is where the pain lives.
I had great friends, but you always had the bullies. So there was one in particular, we'll just say BK. He was 2 years older than me. Just, yeah, I think anytime he passed me in the hallway, he called me Spot, like any chance he got. Um, and he, you know, there was a few. There was a few. He was the worst. So I'll just focus on him. But, you know, I remember one time we were walking home in the park and he grabbed my winter coat and threw it in the dumpster just to be a jackwagon. She hated that, hated the spot, and that was always her nickname. There were certain boys that always called her that. I don't know, maybe even through high school. And I don't know. She does not like those boys to this day. I did not look like everyone else, and my vitiligo has always progressed. You know, I would say slowly, but my whole family gets this beautiful golden brown skin every summer. They still do. Obviously, you always look up to your big sister, and yeah, it's like, you know, next to photos, it's like, and then be the spotted one. So it was hard.
I think the one thing that this whole thing has done is that it has made our family a richer family.
So you're, yeah, closer. I think it's brought us all closer together.
My late teens and early 20s, that was really hard. That was really hard. There was no self love there at all. I didn't want to do it. I'm not going to keep doing this because there's no cure. It's not, it's going to happen. I said, Millie, it's going to happen. And that's when I went to my friend. You know, we young. I'm young. I'm 15. Went to my friend. I said, let me go say goodbye to my friend before I kill myself. That's what, honestly, I'm telling you what I thought. I said, well, let me go say goodbye to my friend before I kill myself. She said, where you going? I said, I don't want to be here anymore. I said, I'm not trying to turn white. I said, I'm not dealing with this stuff and all that. And I said, I got these pills. I told her, I'm going to take these pills. And I said, I'm going to sleep. That was my plan.
When it first started, I don't think it bothered her in the beginning. But as she got older, I said, okay, this is bothering her. You can see it on her face. You can see it in her attitude. I'm like, okay, this is bothering her.
People don't understand it. They don't know what it is. And so, you know, that they see something on your skin, the first thought is this something that I can catch? Is it something that can spread? Is it something I need to stay away from?
And I seen a small spot on my finger too. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't pay it no mind. And then it just started getting, you know, bigger after that. But slowly and surely it started getting bigger after that.
If you have a first degree relative that has vitiligo, you're about 6 times more likely to have vitiligo. So maybe about a 4% chance that an individual will have a child that has vitiligo.
She did stay in the house a lot. She wore a lot of sweaters. I didn't know she was in that depressing state. I really didn't know. She would share that with my mother, but not with us, you know. You have to love yourself first because there's no sense on you getting into that negative space because you being there all by yourself.
in the beginning, and I couldn't take it. Stayed in the house. Food was my comfort. When I graduated from high school, I wasn't working. I was hanging in the house. That's all I did was watch TV, go to the refrigerator, watch TV, go to the refrigerator. That's it. That's all I did. I wasn't working for those couple of years. I wasn't working. I was not working. I think I got my license, I know, at 22. So I think I started working at either 20 or 21. I think at 21 I started working. But between them years, I wasn't doing nothing. I was staying in the house. Because now the white patches was coming and this was coming. I wasn't about to go outside. My friends said, Millie, come out. No.
When I was younger, I didn't even see it. It didn't even exist to me. You know, it was just my mother, and you know that was it. I loved her. You know, that was my mother, and I didn't see any. You know, of course, everybody goes through hard times, but you know, she was a very, very strong woman.
We do a lot of listening and we do a lot of educating and reassuring because there is hope and there are treatments. And then we do a lot of empowering, empowering people to have the tools to champion their own journey.
When I was really little, I would go to our local parks and there were like these little animals, like the ones you ride, like the lions and tigers. I would talk to them. I would just go to the park and for like 2 hours by myself and just sit and talk to the animals. Sorry. I think it's because I didn't want my parents to feel bad. And they didn't get it either. And so it's hard to have those conversations with them. Like, they of course would have been supportive and helpful um and my sister too, but it's so hard. They just don't get it.
The funny thing is, I always wanted to be her. I wanted to be this tall, skinny girl, and that's stupid, but I mean, I did. There was always, I wanted to be her because she was the outgoing one and the one that could sing and be musical and it is. That's funny that she wanted to be like me, where I wanted to be like her too.
The end result was always good because I knew with the boss that I had that when I got to the end, it wasn't going to be a problem when I got there. Yeah. And then I knew coming home, I had my family to come home to. I never really lashed out. I met a relative. I won't even say really a relative, is ex-husband's sister's husband was on the train with the kids, and it was crowded. The train was crowded. She was like, "Look, Daddy, look." And I kind of like moved the people out the way, and he was saying like, "No, don't do that." And I was like, "No, it's okay." I was like, "I know who you are." And then he was like, "You know me?" And I, went to explain, and he was like, "Oh." He's like, "So what happened?" So I had the opportunity to speak to him through a crowded train about what was going on with me. And it made me feel good because I was standing up for myself.
Sometimes it's a little wrenching because of sometimes people don't understand. I remember there was a set of cards, a set of business cards that she had made, and it basically said, "Do not, don't stare, don't gawk." It's called vitiligo.
In those situations, she would just give out the pamphlet, and whatever you took from it is whatever you took from it, because again, I don't really care about your opinion. I'm giving you mine and I'm trying to educate you on this, and you take whatever you take from it. I never felt like I had to help her as far as that, because we're the same. If I'm going through something and you seem interested in it and I can enlighten you on it, I'm gonna do it.
I had one bad incident, and it wasn't really bad, it was innocent. I used to do like security on Friday night, and when that was youth night, and one little girl, she must have been 5, and the night's over and everybody's saying goodbye, and that's around the time when the face was in full bloom. And she skipped up to the little desk. She said, "I just wanted to say goodnight. I just wanted you to know, I think you look like a monster, but I know you're not." And she just skipped off. And a brother was standing in the corner, that I know, and we caught eyes. And he walked over and he was like, wow, you handled that well. I said, it was a child. I said, let it had been adult. I said, I might not be going to the church anymore because it was just so brave of what she said that what could I do? I was kind of like stuck, but I also was at the church.
You have to love yourself.
I have had children say some really bad things and I had to like, could you get your kids? Oh, I'm sorry. And then they move up and then they're all staring again. And I'm like, rude. So God kept me from hurting folks many times because I had two angels on my shoulders at all times. So I think if I wasn't a woman of faith, I might could be in jail. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know why certain couples may have both have vitiligo, but there is a genetic component and there perhaps is some environmental component as well mixed in. So the pathogenesis for vitiligo is really multifactorial. There are multiple reasons, and there's a lot we just don't understand.
I heard bang. I said, oh my God. I hope somebody didn't get banged up too bad.
There's this Jeep coming down, maybe about 90 miles per hour. And I was already in the middle of the street trying to turn. There's nothing I could do. I was trying to go straight over on the sidewalk, but he was coming so fast.
And I heard the bang. I heard the moments. I heard the doorbell and knock. So if you're banging my door hard and ringing the bell at the same time, there's chaos somewhere.
So how they even get me out the car, they put me to lay down on the ground in the rain.
And so here you are ringing my bell early in the morning. I said, something's wrong. I cracked the door about that bit. And it's a guy from my church. He says, Sister Val, you gotta come now. It's your husband. I said, my what? The makeup wasn't done. I put my back up against that door and I cried to the heaven past the clouds. I screamed, not seeing it. And it's right there, 2 houses away. But I'm in prison.
I know the reason why she didn't come out there because she never leave the house unless she makeup on. So I didn't hold it against her.
That day was it. The relationship with makeup, the relationship with stupidity, the relationship with all of it ended. I want no part of that relationship anymore.
It was tough for your husband on the ground out there, 2 minutes from the house, and you couldn't come out there. But I know what she was going through, and I did never hold it against her.
It was an opportunity, I think, too, for my husband. He was always with me, partnering, giving me his money, whatever. But this was a real thing for him too to say, I'm ride or die means ride or die, and I'm all in.
There was one area that had started to depigment, and they took a sample of it and sent it off to the lab just to make sure that it actually was vitiligo. So when it came back positive. So they called me in and explained my options for the creams. They actually had some equipment available. They had UV light treatments machine available, and they had another machine that they call eczema. So I went through that whole process for about 3 years. I came to the realization that I had to make a decision whether or not I wanted to continue or stop because it was evident that it was progressing faster than the treatments were helping. So I made the decision.
So when patients come in, sometimes they just want to know what's going on. What do I have? What can I expect? And we explain that they have vitiligo. And from there, we have to determine, well, what is their goal? If they want to know what they have, But then some patients want to just be accepted for who they are. They don't want to be repigmented or depigmented. They just want to be accepted. And I think it's important to provide that and to respect that decision.
So the depression set in, started to set in. So Doug one day asked me a question. He asked me, I need to know what you're going to do. I need for you to tell me whether or not you're going to live or not. So I had to search within myself and decide if I'm going to live with having vitiligo.
At some point, it became a heavy load, but God would always refresh me and strengthen me to carry that burden and to be a strong support. I found out that the conversation is the most important thing. Um, so when I talked to her and really found out um, how she really feels, okay, it is then that it opened up different avenues for me uh, to be able to help her.
He is my rock. Yeah. He's my best friend. I love hanging out with him. I tell him that all the time. I love hanging out with you, and I wouldn't have it any other way. He's been with me through this journey since day one and has not wavered at all.
Oh, Lord.
He tells me I'm beautiful, even though there are times when I don't feel like I am. He tells me you're beautiful.
When you know what you're looking for, you pursue it. And with vitiligo, the pursuit for your pigment is no exception.
There was a doctor in Boston by the name of Dr. David Rosemarin at Tufts University who thought that ruxolitinib cream could work in a skin condition called vitiligo.
The ruxolitinib cream blocks, again, that communication in the immune system that's particularly activated in that disease, that interferon gamma, what we call the type 1 inflammatory response. And that's why we're able to see a good result when we use this medication.
And in that small study was the first time that we saw an effective treatment, or potentially effective treatment, for vitiligo patients.
We showed that patients were successfully repigmenting on the face as well as the body, and all the primary and key secondary endpoints were met for the study.
You know, when you think about whether it works or not, they want to know that the endpoints that were used to show that it works were reproducible and valid. And so we do all of that work during a clinical program to satisfy the FDA requirements for a drug. So we wanted to help the vitiligo patients because we know that many of them suffer. Many of them have no treatment options. And so that was an extra motivator for us.
Doctors and patients in the vitiligo community have forged a partnership of shared advocacy that has increased awareness, acceptance, and understanding. And leading in this area is a charge that Valerie took to heart, creating and connecting with those living with vitiligo through support groups around the country and around the world. You don't have to know someone with vitiligo to understand what it means to be marginalized. Our differences marginalize us. Our beliefs marginalize us. Our love and our hate marginalize us. And while the journey to and through vitiligo has been clouded, Alicia, Katrina, Millie, Valerie, and Patricia have seen the light, standing in their purpose by exposing the lies and giving voice to their realities. Their pain has transitioned to power, and from power to transformation, and from transformation to living. This is the first time I've been in a bathing suit since my diagnosis 9 years ago. So it's
a bit emotional. I was extremely nervous, even getting dressed. I was very nervous. Had a little bit of anxiety, um, but then at the same time, it was a joy came over me to know that this will be the first time in 9+ years that I have put on a bathing suit. It was such a joyous time for me. It was a freeing for me, and it just felt so good to just be able to get in water. Just jump in and just swim. It was just great, a great freeing feeling, and I was just so overjoyed.
It's so much hurt and pain in this world, and so many different messages. And I hope that one day what I do can change how people view beauty. It's all around us. God didn't make anything ugly. And I wanted her to know that even with makeup, without makeup on, you a bad girl.
It was a gift. It was a gift and the purpose. Okay, that's why I have my spots. That's why he did it. Because nothing's an accident. Everything happens for a reason. I always think that. And that's why he did it. And he knew I had a loud voice and I had no problem talking to people or being in front of a camera or whatever. And he's like, all right, Alicia, go. And that's why. And that's why I'm here today. And we're doing a film. And, he's touched all of us to say, we need your voice. We need your story. You can help this person. You can help this person.
Dr. Harris says he's often the fifth or sixth dermatologist people have seen.
And I would hear story after story of patients who would come in and many of them crying and talking about their experiences. And there's no way you can hear those stories and not get personally involved. And so, that's a part of me now. My patients actually are a big part of me. And when you see people suffering, then you have to help.
I saw her yesterday.
I know that.
On her birthday. It's liberating to know that I can get on the train and not worry about people staring at me. But haha, they still stare at me.
I always asked her how she's doing. If you're okay, I'm okay. If you need me to do something, let me know what I needed to do. Um, there was a time that there was a we had went through married couples ministry, and they had something about they had these little tags, and one of the tags that I had picked and says write a love letter. So when it was time for me to write it, it basically it said that when I met you, I was going the wrong direction. You steered me into the right direction. I thank God for mothers and grandmothers being on their knees praying for my life to come. And then the last words on the bottom it said, and then came you, and with the three dots right behind it to say more.
He was there. When things were bad, he was there, and things were bad. And that was before the change of color. And and he was always, it was just skin. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we went on trips. He protected me from people like staring at me. I was like, what you looking at? Take a picture. And I was like, babe, don't do that. He's like, take a picture. It lasts longer. So he was there. He wasn't like he could have said, oh, let's not go on this vacation. Let's wait till next year and see, you know, how things look, so to speak. But no, I mean, I don't think he was ever ashamed of me, as maybe I might have been for him. So, yeah, he was the rock.
Remember that song, Smiling Faces Tell Lies? Yeah. Huh? He don't tell the truth? Right. Well, that song was the truth. Smiling faces do lie. If people can smile at you, don't mean they love you.
Yeah, you stab me in the back.
That's right, because I told this person one time, I said, everybody don't like you. He said, who told you that? I said, no. I said, that's the truth. People don't like us. Everybody don't like us. Well, I don't know about you. People love me. I said, that's the assumption they give you. I said, you may think that. Yeah. I said, see, because you got to understand something. When you're by yourself, that's who you are.
Even though I was changing on the inside, I did not know God was doing a transformation for me on the inside as well. It took years, but I got it. You know what I'm saying? It took years, but I got it. He was transforming me from the inside. And again, I have to think this. I have to think. I'm not positive. But I have to say to myself, like I said, vitiligo made me stronger. How do I know he didn't even give me vitiligo to make me a stronger person?
It's great to see her, flourish and connect with other people who have vitiligo and just, create a community and also help others who are struggling in the same way she did as a young child. So, I'm very happy for her. I'm proud of her for taking that step and having reaching hand to those who need help. That's how I see that. And I'm just proud of her and happy.
Vitiligo ain't gonna change. It's gonna keep on progressing. It's gonna keep on progressing. It ain't gonna change. It's you that gotta change. That's not something you gotta change. So I know I had to change. I had to change my ways. I'm serious. I had to change my ways. Even in the beginning, when people used to look and stare. Oh my God, I kind of like snapped at people. I really did. I snapped at people. I snapped at them. I was upset. They used to stare and look and point. But now, casually, children, I don't say anything. Adults, if you stare at me, yeah, I'm gonna come to you. I'm gonna come to you nicely. I'm gonna come to you nicely because we all know it's not polite to stare. Ask me a question. Don't just stare at me. Ask me a question.
The biggest thing I've gotten out of being involved in support groups is seeing individuals go from wearing makeup all the time, not leaving their house without makeup, not answering the door without makeup, to getting up to a point where they do everything without makeup. They, feel fully confident in who they are, regardless of their vitiligo, and even go from a point of I can't live my life with vitiligo to getting to a point where I love the fact that I have vitiligo, like for the people that it's brought into my life, for the things that it's taught me.
We went through like each section and like I think, like I said earlier, that they feel it. They feel what it is like to have vitiligo. That it is more than our skin, and that the highs and the lows. They can just come away with like, oh wait a minute, it's not just spots on your skin. This is affecting this, and this can affect this, and this can affect this. I think that's what I want people to take away.
I would like them to know that she's just like everybody else. She's the same. Only thing different is her skin. It doesn't matter. She's the same. But she's really nice and supportive for everybody else who has vitiligo.
I always felt, as Alicia, grew up and blossomed and accepted herself, that, as initially you like ask God, why my child? You think about that. And as she got older and I saw her turn into a different person, then it was like he knew what he was doing.
We saw a huge change in her because she spent her whole life with nobody, and now all of a sudden she's reaching out, trying to help other people, show them that they're not alone.
I mean, she is amazing. I mean, she really, really is. All of this stuff with vitiligo and the ambassador she's become and helping others, and I can't be more proud of her right now. I mean, she is at her all-time high, and she's doing amazing things.
How much support you being a part of those community meetings, attending those meetings every month, being visible in the neighborhood at public events, returning phone calls and returning emails to make sure that when they called or emailed, we were responsive to be able to solve their problems in their community. So we met through the job as a city council, we met through the campaign, and then when I was elected city councilor, we just grew together working on many different issues in the neighborhood.
You're helping them. Because remember when April first came down and being able to
get the legislators to be aware that there was a need for change, need for help, that vitiligo is not just for people of color, that it is across the board, and it doesn't care how old, what gender, what race. It just, vitiligo is something that we needed to bring awareness to.
My heart is still overflowing. And so I begin by telling you that, as you've heard, my name is Valerie Molyneux, and I have vitiligo.
This is her story, and Valerie was gonna turn this test into her testimony, and that's what she's doing now.
So at this time, I'd like to ask Val Molyneux to come to the microphone.
She went through her journey. Like, she's told me about like suicidal thoughts and crazy things like that, and she's turned completely from that, and like she's a champion for it. Like, wants to like shout it from the rooftops that she has it. Like, it's the complete opposite of what she was.
Faith is huge. She definitely has her faith, for sure. I know that's important in her life, our lives. But I think we believe in such being a huge support for one another in our household. And I think her knowing that we all support her so much also pushes her to continue doing what she's doing.
I'm humbled by the strength that some of these remarkable people like Valerie exemplify, and how that they've taken something that's challenging in their life and really done such good with it.
We want this to make a difference.
This is something that I have no control over this. We don't know if it is diet controlled. We don't know what it is. But for the time being, this is what we have. And I think she's done a great job as far as getting the message out there and just embracing other people with vitiligo.
If people on the outside would actually talk to somebody with vitiligo, sit down and have a conversation and ask, what is it like? Then you can understand it, and you won't say it's not that bad, because you'll get a true perspective of what it's like to live with vitiligo.
Like the Bible said, we are beautiful and wonderfully made. And I look around, I see these beautiful women. I say, yeah, you look good, but you got vitiligo and you look good. And so, and guys at Hampton with, they're working in these stores and they're greeting people, and I'm like, you got a positive, yeah, you straight, bro. So I'm like, you just have to be positive within yourself. You gotta love yourself. Before you love anybody, even if you didn't have this, you have to love yourself first.
I want people to understand that they need patience and understanding from the wider community, and to educate, teach your children that to be different is okay.
she took something that some people would take really in a negative way and turned it so positive. And in a short amount of time, with her having to deal with what she's dealt with, she's taken it and turned it around and have touched so many lives by doing so. So I'm really proud of her. I mean, words, I don't have the words to tell you how proud I am.
We want this to be the clarion call that we're here, we are living, we're surviving, we're making it happen.
The journey will be hard, but you'll be able to get over all the hurdles because it's really not that bad. It's skin, and people will challenge you, but with faith and endurance, things will come and things will go, but you remain steadfast in who you are.
There's a song that says, "You've come a long way, baby." And I've come a long way. And I can smile today. And looking back and where I was 9 years ago to today, it makes me smile. It makes my heart happy.
My mother, she would be proud. She'd be very proud. Because if she said, Millie, if you helping, if what you say can help somebody else, your story, she said, you're doing the right thing.
You from the beginning have always accepted me, spots and all. You will always make me feel beautiful, and you are the most supporting and loving person I've ever met. And finally, to God, I thank him for giving me vitiligo. I thank him for showing me the way and how to use my skin as a purpose. I thank him for connecting me to all these people in my life that I was able to help, educate, and love. Look how far we've come.